What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast. Season 2 is in full gear, and so we are super excited for what we got going on this season. Just to let you know what that means, we still have our weekly Prepisodes where we discuss movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. I got my buddy POPpaGoss on those each and every week. Those drop on Mondays at 6 a.m. Also, we have our Creators Conversations. This is where we're interviewing people from the business and beyond to discuss what they do to create and how they create their art. We will be releasing one of those interviews a month, so be on the lookout for that on YouTube. We're also doing our monthly watch-alongs where we pick a movie to watch. We live stream our conversation while we're watching the film on YouTube. This week, POPpaGoss and I welcome Sidekick Ink to discuss Sam Raimi movies, all in preparation for Send Help dropping in theaters Friday. We're going to talk through all of his highlights and enjoy the conversation around this incredible director. We hope you also check out our website at moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com. There you can see all of our social links. You can listen to the podcast. You can watch the podcast. We also have our merch store. You can find tons of merch for Movies That Make You and our friends. We also have a link to our Letterboxd where you can see all the movies that we watch in preparation for the new releases, but also the movies that make you laugh, the movies that make you cry, the movies that make you scream, and everything in between. So before we get to this week's episode, let's check out what we got coming up on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, we're celebrating Black History Month. We're going to be discussing essential Black films. We've got our buddy Tommy from the Popalicious Pop Heads. He's going to be lining down that list for us. It's going to be a good time. The week after that, we're preparing for Wuthering Heights. We're going to have Kristen on the podcast as we discuss a bunch of different tragic romance movies and the book, Wuthering Heights. The week after that, we've got a special guest on the show, the horror Green Book. Brendan's going to be discussing the movies that he finds fascinating from around the world. The week after that, we are celebrating the franchise that brought POPpaGoss and I together, Scream. We're going to be discussing all 6 prior films in preparation for Scream 7 hitting theaters that week. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I am Sprang, and I got my co-host here, POPpaGoss. What's up, Josh?
What is going on?
Dude, glad to have you back, and glad to have you on the podcast full time now. We're in the month of January, and so that's exciting. Our first month together co-hosting. So we've got a special friend here. POPpaGoss invited him here. He's joining us. Sidekick Ink. What's up, CJ? Welcome to the podcast.
How's it going? Happy to be here.
Heck
Yeah, it's going good, man. Going good. Very excited about this conversation today. We are going to be talking about Sam Raimi movies in preparation for Send Help that drops this Friday. And when I mentioned that to POPpaGoss, he's like, we got to get my boy CJ on. So welcome.
Yeah, very excited. I love Sam Raimi, and I can't wait to dive into it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, first off, we like to give kind of our guests a chance to share a little bit about movies and what impacted you early on to make you fall in love with them.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny. I tell people I didn't really have movie parents as much. I know there's a lot of people who get introduced to movies with their parents, but I was introduced to a lot of movies by my next door neighbor, Cameron, who I grew up with. And we watched Fight Club together for the first time. We watched Spider-Man. That's a big one. A huge monumental one for me is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which is why I think Sam Raimi, what kind of cemented him as one of my favorite, or like my favorite director. And I even remember seeing Spider-Man in theaters, and I remember sitting in the theater and I kept like looking down at my hand, and I was like doing little like web whips and stuff. And I think I was like 11 years old, and it really consumed my life. And then, honestly, those early 2000 superhero movies too, like after Spider-Man, or before Spider-Man, we had the X-Men trilogy, but then Spider-Man, and then hit with Ben Affleck's Daredevil, which I really love too. So, I don't know, movies. I really experienced a lot of movies with my next door neighbor, who's like my best friend, Cameron. And we used to, there was a Walmart about 5 miles from our house. And before I had a driver's license, we would walk to Walmart, dig through the $5 bin, see what looked good, and then come home and watch it, and just kind of experience movies that way. And then Cameron also was like really ahead of the curve when he was like, I don't know, he was probably like 16, 17 years old. He had a Netflix DVD mail subscription, and he would he'd be like, hey, I'm ordering a bunch of movies for us to watch. And he'd just get them in the mail. And it's just, I love movies. And even now I probably watch at least a movie a day. Like, so I really just love watching movies.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's very reminiscent of me as well. My best friend was on the podcast back in December, and we did our favorite movies from 1995. We were 15 and 14 at the time, but it was like that year had so many great movies that like I went back and watched them once I got of age, right? So we had a good conversation there. But he was a big, like, that's what we did in college too. He was my college roommate too, so we just watched movies. And now, I rope my wife into watching movies as much as I can. And anytime she's not available, I hit someone up, hey, you want to go see a movie tonight? Yeah, so it's a lot of fun.
That's the best. I love telling my wife, like, I have a movie that I think you'll love, and then I show it to her, and most of the time, I have like a 90% success rate. There's only been a few times where she's like, I didn't really like that. I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm just nostalgic for it. Maybe it's not your vibe, but I love it. I love showing people movies too. So
That's it, man. I told my wife, I was like, I love sharing the things I love with the people I love. And so it's like this podcast kind of started with that in mind. And I'm like sharing these movies with my kids, and then we're talking about, I'm like, what did you think? What did you like? And it's like this way of like sharing the things we love with our family. And when Kristen and I first got started dating, I realized she hadn't seen a ton of movies and TV shows. Like, she just said, I just lived under a rock for so long. So it was like, wow, I have someone I can kind of share these first moments with. So we watched Fight Club for the first time. We watched Inception for the first time, and it's like being there when someone watches those movies at the first time. It's just, you feel it as well. So pretty cool.
I love showing my wife movies, but she doesn't like a lot of scary movies, and she doesn't like a lot of violence, like too much. I think the most violent movie she could sit through was like Deadpool or something. But I'm very, very grateful. I have a super awesome mother-in-law, which I know not everybody usually brags about their mother-in-law, but my mother-in-law is pretty cool. And we'll go to the movies together sometimes. And actually, as a matter of fact, a couple months ago, she was really wanting to see Weapons. All her coworkers were talking about it.
Okay.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
We decided on a Saturday that we were going to go see Weapons at like an 11 a.m. showing. And then I said, man, there's so many great movies in theaters. I asked her, I said, have you seen Jurassic World yet? Because I haven't seen the new Jurassic World movie. She goes, no. So then we're like, okay, let's see that right after Weapons. And after we get out of I think we're sitting for the trailers for Jurassic World, and we're looking at the clock, and we're like, if we time it just right, we can catch Superman at 6:45. And we did a triple feature.
That was amazing.
It was pretty killer. So
that's the dream.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, my brother-in-law lives in town, and he likes movies as well, and so we usually plan at least once a quarter. We'll get together and we'll do a trilogy, like just at the house usually. But sometimes we'll do, like for Oppenheimer, we did Fat Boy and Little Slim, and Doctor Strangelove and How I Grew to Love the Atomic Bomb. So we watched those two in preparation for Oppenheimer.
Probably Kubrick's funniest movie.
Yeah,
right.
Super funny.
Hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we saw those two at the apartment, and then at his son's apartment, because he likes to participate. And then we went to the IMAX, the 70 millimeter here in Dallas, and saw the 70 millimeter IMAX. So pretty epic.
When I was like 17 or 18, a buddy of mine was house sitting for some family friends, and he got permission. He says, is it okay if I have some friends over and we just like watch some movies, make barbecue or something in the backyard? And they said, yeah. So we planned it out, and there was like 6 of us. And we called it Sandler Fest, and we all brought Adam Sandler DVDs, and we, from like 11 a.m. to like 11 p.m., we ended up watching like 6 Adam Sandler movies, just like hanging out. We were watching Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. It's like, it was hilarious, especially being like 17 with a bunch of like dudes. Like, that was our type of humor too, like Adam Sandler and Chris Farley, and like just watching those kind of movies. And it's just fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story, man. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Really cool.
So I think we just jump into the movies now. I think I'm geared up. I'm ready. So we're gonna do our top 5. We'll start at our 5th one and move up to 1. Like I said earlier, if it's higher on someone else's list, they'll say I've got it higher, and we'll save it for the conversation, so it gets the higher priority as we get higher in the list. So you'll go first, CJ, for your 5, Josh's 5, my 5, and then we'll go around like that. Sound good?
All right. You just want me to go through all 5?
No, just start with your number 5.
Just number 5. Okay.
Yeah, just number 5.
So,
yeah.
This one actually has been climbing my list. I feel like each time I rewatch it, it goes higher and higher. And I really like this movie. It's a super stylized Western, which is The Quick and the Dead. Really, really fun movie. Honestly, it's becoming one of my favorite Westerns overall, but The Quick and the Dead is a cool one.
I had that higher.
Nice.
All right.
I'm glad somebody else has some love for Quick and the Dead.
Yeah, but I did have that one a little bit higher. So, Sprint, you want me to go 5?
Yeah, why don't you go 5?
Then we'll talk. Okay. So my number 5 was A Simple Plan from 1998, starring Billy Bob Thornton, Bill Paxton, and Bridget Fonda. Did you guys have that one on your list or no?
No.
Okay, cool.
Not number 5.
So yeah, just kind of an out of the ordinary film. It was something that Raimi could really show like his directing chops, and it's, you know, it's funny, but it's very serious at the same time. Billy Bob Thornton actually got an Academy Award nomination for that film, but he got beat out by James Coburn for a movie called Affliction. But yeah, it also co-starred Gary Cole from Office Space, and then John Paxton, Bill Paxton's dad, actually got a little small role as like an old man in the movie. And the screenplay was also nominated for an Oscar. Scott B. Smith, he wrote the novel, and then that it was based off of, and then he went ahead and wrote the script as well.
That's cool.
But yeah,
John Paxton's in a lot of Raimi films.
Yeah, I looked it up and I was like, I didn't even know that. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I was going through this. Yeah,
he's the Osborn's butler, and he's also one of the Tinkers. He's one of the Tinkers in Munchkinville too, or Munchkinland in Oz. But quick note about Simple Plan, just real quick, is it got compared a lot to Fargo because the snow setting and because like the money and the murder and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of comparisons to Fargo. I personally like Fargo a lot more as a film.
Right.
But Raimi has a history with the Coens. He's good friends with the Coens. And of course, in Darkman, it has oh gosh, her name is escaping me now.
Frances McCormick.
Frances McCormick in Darkman. So anyways, the Coens actually sort of like consulted with Raimi a little bit on, I don't think they're listed as producers and anything, but I do know they consulted on Simple Plan a little bit.
That was one of my notes was Raimi, he learned the techniques to film in heavy snow thanks to the Coen brothers and Fargo, and how they shot that. And then it was actually going back to John Paxton, he wanted to be in the movie because he heard his son was going to be in it. And Bill didn't even know his dad was in the movie until he got to the office where they were like prepping to film. He walked in and he saw the cast call sheet and he saw his dad's name on there. But John wrote a letter to Sam Raimi because he's a huge fan. And he just said how much he admired him. And Raimi ended up putting him as like a little small role in that. And then many others, like CJ just said. And then the movie was actually supposed to be made a few years before that, like in 94, 95. Ben Stiller was actually supposed to direct it. And Nicolas Cage was supposed to star in it. And then Cage, I don't know if he was, I guess he was still he did a lot in the 90s. So he was probably one of the higher paid actors. But I guess his salary was like way too high. So he ended up dropping out. And then once he dropped out, Stiller walked away. Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis were also cast, but they got scheduling conflicts. So they dropped out. And thus we got Billy Bob Thornton, Bridget Fonda, and Bill Paxton. But yeah, it's going back to the Coen brothers, like Joel Coen and Frances McCormick. That's how they met, and then they're married in real life. But they used to live. They were like roommates with Sam Raimi, and like they did stuff around his house, and that like they kind of fed off each other at the same time, which is really cool. So I love the Coen brothers. But yeah, it's a fun one. I like I said, it's just I put it at number 5 just because it's out of all of Raimi's work, it's kind of like unique. It's not like the rest of his filmography. So it's a good one. It got some Oscar nominations, and it's got a great cast. So it's a fun one. But that was my number 5.
Awesome. Alrighty. My number 5 is Drag Me to Hell. Anybody have that on your list?
I almost put it on, but I swapped it out for something else.
Nice.
I have a confession. I don't know. I don't connect with that movie as much as other people do. A lot of people have that one really high on their list.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your thoughts, Sprang.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
It's one that grabbed my attention the first time I saw it, and it stuck with me. And actually, I always remembered that movie. I remembered a few of the scenes, like especially like the parking garage scene, or then like just the one where she's throwing up maggots in Lindsay's face and all that stuff, and just really clever. And then this past October, we were watching scary movies, and I introduced it to my kids because it's PG-13. And so we watched it again, and I was just like, this is great. There's even that really cool, I feel like it's on purpose. Of course, it's probably on purpose, is there's like that when she's buried alive and she's climbing out and she reaches up her hand, and it's like this Evil Dead snapshot picture where she's crawling out. So I was like, oh, that's a cool homage. And I get it. Like, it's not necessarily, the best movie ever, but for whatever reason, it's got some nostalgia for me. And because I just watched it just as like, just really, really, really fun, interesting story. But then it's definitely got the Raimi-isms like throughout. So it's a lot of, it just kind of grabbed me and never let go. So,
when I first saw that movie, I went back and I made sure to watch it again just to see if I was missing anything. But I think it's easy to see that movie and assume that the old woman that curses her, like she's being cursed and she's being punished and all these things. But a good friend of mine, he's pretty popular about breaking down movies on TikTok. He goes by, or his name is LP Longmire. LP, he sees movies through a way different lens than me. I tell him that all the time. I say, you really see a lot of stuff that I miss. And he broke down Drag Me to Hell for me. And he said, she is cursing herself. She is creating her own downfall out of her selfishness. She is constantly put in a position where she has a choice to make. And even her boss says, you can approve this loan or you can deny it. And she decides to deny the loan to try and get ahead in life. And she thinks that will better her. And she is actually dragging herself to hell in a way, because she constantly throughout that movie is making selfish decisions, and constantly she's actually the villain of that movie. And that's the thing. And once I heard that, it did flip my perspective a little on the movie. It's really interesting how he did that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that interpretation, because I think it's definitely there. It's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's a fun one. It's got a lot of the Raimi-esque, like Evil Dead, Army of Dark, like that kind of practical effects. That's like, it's crazy, but it's also like funny at the same time. Yeah, I had not seen it in years, and I just rewatched it to prep for this, just to see if I wanted to put it on my list. And I did enjoy it again, but I love Justin Long. Pretty much anything he's in, I'll watch. So it is a good one. But yeah, it's got some cool practical effects for sure.
Sprang brought up the hand reaching from the ground, which is definitely a Sam Raimi thing that he loves to do. It's in I think I found it in at least 8 of his movies. Norman Osborn reaches out the same way. Sandman reaches up the same way. Ton of those. The Wicked Witch reaches up the same way in Oz. But also, Drag Me to Hell has a lot of eyeball stuff, and I know Sam Raimi loves eyeballs. And but there's a lot of zooming into eyeballs and stuff like that. But Drag Me to Hell has the nastiest eyeball scene in any Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah, for sure.
When the eyeball pops in. Yeah, and just I had to bring that up because I know Sam deals with eyeballs a lot, but that one's got to be the nastiest one.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right, CJ, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is actually what I think is the best Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead 2.
Okay, I have that one higher.
Yeah, I think Evil Dead 2. I like it. I like it better than the first movie. I think the first movie is so just iconic, obviously in what it did with Sam Raimi's career and just him sort of doing all these things. But Evil Dead 2 has a nice balance of comedy and stuff like that. And I know we could probably talk about it a little bit later, but that's my number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I had that just a couple spots higher, but yeah, I agree with you, and we'll get into that in a sec. My number 4 was the one that CJ referenced a second ago, is Quick and the Dead from 1995. I do appreciate Westerns. I'm kind of a bad cinephile, because a lot of cinephiles, especially directors, they always reference Westerns, Sergio Leone and Sergio Leone and all those older Westerns that made Westerns cool and stuff. So this one was it had the Raimi feel. It has his trademark, the way he shoots scenes and the sideways tilting shot.
Dutch angles, yeah.
Yeah, and then the what's it called? The
dolly zoom.
Yeah, called? The forced perspective, or not forced perspective, but what's it called when they're the person's in the shot, but they're kind of zoomed out over the shoulder or the holster,
like a split diopter or something, or
something like that. But yeah,
when they're both in focus, but they're far away from each other.
Yeah. So he has a lot of that in this movie, which is cool. But yeah, young Russell Crowe. It was actually his first American movie that he did. Sharon Stone was one of the main producers. She had kind of free reign on who she wanted to cast in the movie. Really cool thing she did was Leo. had been nominated for an Oscar already for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and then he'd done Basketball Diaries, which I think he's really good in Basketball Diaries. No nomination, but it was kind of crazy because like the studio didn't want to cast a young Leo DiCaprio at the time. So Sharon Stone, since she was a producer, she paid his salary on her own for him to be in the movie, which I thought was super cool. Also, Sharon Stone, like, I mean, she's always been real pretty, but like in that movie, I'm like, man, you're like the pretty, maybe I'm trying to think of a prettier maybe Raquel Welch back in the day. She was a pretty hot cowboy too, or cowgirl. But yeah, Quick and the Dead, really fun. I mean, it's got awesome, action sequences, incredible cast. I mean, Gene Hackman, rest in peace.
Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
Tobin Bell. Tobin Bell's in that movie.
Lance Henriksen, Keith David, Gary Sinise. I mean, just actually, the ones that surprised me were there's 2 Batman actors who were actually in it. Pat Hingle, who is Commissioner Gordon in the original Batman movies, and then Mark Boone Jr., who was Flash in Batman Begins. But yeah, Matt Damon was originally supposed to be Leo's part, but I think he was starting out at the same time. And then depth of field. That was what I was trying to think of. So he uses his depth of field to create an immersive experience, especially in like the duels and stuff. And I just think that those shots are really cool, really well done. There's a scene that I forgot about that is it's just really well done. And it's when they're like starting the duel battle, and it's like Russell Crowe, and they'll go dark behind him, and then it'll like show the clock tower, and then it's kind of like a montage of scenes that like kind of just fade in and out. But it's Sam Raimi-esque, which is really cool. But that scene in particular stuck out because the music and everything, it just was a really cool scene. So, but yeah, my number 4 was The Quick and the Dead, because I don't have a lot of Westerns that I love and like are entertained by. And that one's a very entertaining one. So
I think that movie's got more dolly zooms than any other movie. There's a duel scene where it's just dolly zoom, dolly zoom, dolly zoom, dolly zoom, and it's just so stylized. It's so cool. Also, like I said, it's a very stylized Western. Everything Josh said, like the cast, for sure. The cast is insane. And the Raimi, Raimi's style of filmmaking is, you don't see a lot of Westerns sort of in that way. And a friend of mine actually we were talking about Sam Raimi films, and about how Sam Raimi, we were talking about the comparison with Christopher Nolan, where Christopher Nolan has very, I won't say basic filmmaking techniques, but his filmmaking is not as stylized, but his scripts and his writing is very complex. And Nolan has very complex scripts with a very straightforward filmmaking techniques, as to where Raimi has very simple stories. A lot of Raimi's stories are just really, really just simple, straightforward, not overly complicated stories, but with very stylized, technical filmmaking. And he likes to take big swings. He likes to do stuff that's cool. And in the case of Quick and the Dead, it is a very simple story. The whole movie is about a dueling competition going on, and throughout this duel, you have a couple characters that want redemption or vengeance for something. In Leo's case, he wants to prove himself to his father. In Gene Hackman's case, he just kind of wants to be in control of everything and just kind of manipulate everybody. In Sharon Stone's case, she obviously wants vengeance for her father. And then in Russell Crowe's case, he really doesn't want to be there. He just wants to live his life, and he's sort of being forced to be there. And they're all playing out their own stories. But the concept of the film is simple. It's just a duel competition. And it's really character driven, and like I said, very stylized with his filmmaking. And I just think it's a fun movie, and it's one of those Westerns that the only other Western I really enjoy about that much is something like Tombstone, I would say. They're just very fun. But Quick and the Dead is definitely that. I'm glad that's on someone else's list than mine, because it's a fun one.
Oh, I forgot another supporting actor, Robert Blossom. He was Old Man Marley in Home Alone. The old guy that was scary. He's like the guy he's like the, I don't know what you want to call him, the crypt key, like he comes and gets people when they die in the duels and stuff. Also a fun fact I forgot to throw in there, the original ending apparently like wasn't good enough or wasn't up to what I think it was not up to Sam Raimi's standards. And so he actually brought in Joss Whedon at the time to make the ending. So Joss Whedon actually came in and like, I don't think he was a ghostwriter, but he came in and like fixed the ending for as a favor to Sam Raimi. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen Quick and the Dead, so I've got to put it on
Spoilers,
my watch
sorry.
list and have it up there.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
It's good. It's good.
Well, I'm sorry if I spoiled anything, but it's a good watch. It's a good watch.
Yeah. No, it sounds. I mean, I like westerns. I mean, I think for me, it's like 3:10 to Yuma stands out. Bone Tomahawk for recent ones like Bone Tomahawk and Hostile. We just actually watched one and we interviewed them, and we released that back on January 9th. But Frontier Crucible just got released, and it's got a couple of guys in it that are really good. Thomas Jane is in it, and Armie Hammer is in it. But it's a very kind of simple story of one group's trying to get away from the south of Texas, and then one guy's trying to get down to the south of Texas, and they kind of conflict throughout the movie. But westerns are always kind of fascinating me. Growing up, going to Kentucky with my grandparents and watching Bonanza, because that's all I could watch it on their TV, and so that kind of has a special place in my heart. The Rifleman, which is another one of those old like black and white shows that used to be on the reruns there. And then I think another one that it's not an American western, it's an Australian story, but it's a cowboy story, and that's Man from Snowy River. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that.
Haven't seen that one.
Yeah. So that one always grabbed me because it was weird because he used a whip to kind of corral the horses. But then I also compared that with the whip and the hat to like Indiana Jones. It's like, this is like Indiana Jones on a horse, as a kid. And so it always fascinated me. I had my wife watch it, the first one with me, and I was like, we can watch the second one. She's like, no, maybe not. And I was like, okay. But it's got nostalgia for me. Cool. All right. My number 4 is The Evil Dead from 1981. Is that on anybody's list? Not that high.
No, the original Evil Dead? No.
Yeah.
So I think
it is awesome though.
Sure. For me, it's the fact that it kind of was the kickstart to Sam Raimi's like kind of getting more opportunity. It's like this original moment in time. It's the kind of the cabin in the woods story, which is really fun and just like trapped. You don't really know what's going on, and you keep saying, why are you doing this? Why stop messing around with this book? It's like this kind of interacting with the characters. It's also, it's a little bit more on the horror side than it is like on the horror comedy. There are some comedic moments, but I kind of lean more towards at least when I watched it, I liked that one more than I liked Evil Dead 2, because Evil Dead 2 kind of leaned more into the comedy, and it just hit me different. So I think it's higher on my list for that. I think Evil Dead 2 is like 7 or 8. But yeah, so it just kind of does that. It's like that cabin in the woods, and it's like the introduction of Ash and all that. It's just the trapping them down in the basement and locking it with a chain, and then it's just there's just so fun. I also really like the camera, like you're in the perspective of the ghost or the demon or the whatever, so that was a really cool perspective too, that kind of grabbed me. So yeah, so that's a little bit of why I like Evil Dead.
I sort of mentioned this when we were talking a little earlier, but the thing about Evil Dead is I may not have it as high on my list as other movies, but I absolutely love the movie. And I do think, like what you said, it's so monumental to Raimi's career, but it also kickstarted what I would argue is the greatest horror franchise out there, only based on the fact that I would say it's the only horror franchise with no like skippable movies. I think you have like Child's Play, where you're like, okay, the third one's not that great or whatever. And you have Halloween or Friday the 13th. Right. And the thing about Evil Dead is the original trilogy is all bangers, and both of the follow-up sequels are both bangers from all three directors. I think they're really great, and Raimi is responsible for that, I feel like, in creating this this franchise. And I also like again, like just sort of him, what you mentioned with the POV of I like to call it the monster's point of view. That's something that's followed him in his career a couple notable things. He uses that same technique in the forest in Oz the Great and Powerful, but he also uses it in the hospital scene with Doc Ock's tentacles, and that's straight out of Evil Dead. Is the monster's point of view. That's another one of Raimi's favorite techniques to use, is to give us that eerie point of view of the monster, which is cool. I also like how Evil Dead never shows us the
right.
You don't know what it is. Is it wind? Is it a spirit? Is it a physical entity? Is it, you don't really know. It's
and it's crazy. I mean, we're getting another Evil Dead this year in 2026, later this year. And I just saw that Ash is going to be back. So that should be pretty cool. I saw that on Instagram today.
Groovy. That sounds groovy.
Yeah, and then not even the movies, the TV show is great too. Like CJ said, Ash vs. Evil Dead's very fun. I got to hang out this summer with Dana De Lorenzo from that show, and she's a hoot. But yeah, it's a fun. It's a great franchise. It's very fun. Obviously, we wouldn't have got to see all the amazing stuff that Bruce Campbell offers to Hollywood, and it's awesome. I'm like CJ. I don't dislike the first one. Obviously, it could be because of that. I think it's really cool. Back then they didn't have a lot of those like student, NY film school, like people making films that turned out to be, bigger than the budget. And so it's just really cool to like see success stories that turn into even more success down the road. So,
and it's cool. In Donnie Darko.
Yeah. Yeah. Donnie. We were just talking about Donnie Darko on another episode a while back. Can't remember which
actually
one.
The part of Evil Dead that is in Donnie Darko is it's the beginning. I really, really like the beginning of the first Evil Dead movie, with the bench swinging and them driving up in the car and just them discovering the cabin for the first time. There's just something so eerie about that, and it's like scary before it even gets scary.
Yeah,
and I think that just that something about that bench swinging on the porch and the sound design of that is just so haunting, and I think it's really cool.
That's so on my Letterboxd, I am all over Letterboxd. Like I love making lists. And so like the movies that make you, the name of the podcast came from when I was dating my wife and we were trying to figure out what she wanted to, like what movies she wanted to watch. I'd say, what do you want to feel? You want to be scared? You want to think, movies that make you think. So I started making her lists for movies that make you think, movies that make you laugh. And so that was kind of like why this podcast came to be. And so I actually, created, I actually had the idea. I haven't done it yet, but movies that make you watch a movie that's in the movie or something like that, like come up with a
that's a good one.
Because there's so many, like we were talking about Halloween because they talk about going to watch The Thing from Outer Space. It's like, they're watching a movie in the movie. Like, let's put that on the list. And you were just saying Evil Dead is in Donnie Darko. So it's like, so it'd be kind of a fun list to kind of see how many of these. I mean, they're all over the place, I'm sure, but it's also like they're there for a reason. Like the director's picking a specific scene or a specific moment to show you as the audience because it's influencing this scene or it's influencing this moment. It's setting a tone. You're hearing the screams from the TV in Scream while she's on the phone with Ghostface before you know when the attack's going to happen, right? So it's like it's setting this tension because what she's watching. So it's cool.
And I like Jamie Kennedy yelling to Jamie Lee Curtis, saying, "Jamie, he's behind you. Jamie, he's behind you."
Yeah.
And that's a funny moment. I have one for your list. I know it's not related to Raimi at all, but one of my favorite films of all time is Lawrence of Arabia. And Prometheus, with David in Prometheus, he starts the film watching that movie, but I just love how the entire character of David is modeled after Lawrence and him mimicking Lawrence and dyeing his hair and speaking like him and making decisions like him. And I feel like the entirety of the film Prometheus really doesn't exist without Lawrence of Arabia because it's so integral to David's character and the decisions he makes. So that's a good one for your list too, is Prometheus.
Heck yeah.
Nice.
I love Prometheus.
So I could talk about Lawrence of Arabia for another 2 hours. Just so
Heck yeah.
We'll have to pull that in another time. What's your number 3? You got it.
My number 3. I am wearing this vintage 1996 jacket right here, but it is Darkman. Darkman is another one that had been climbing my list. Is that on anybody else's list, real quick?
Yeah, it's a little bit higher on mine.
Okay, then I'll
Man,
save my thoughts for a little bit later.
I know
all yours
CJ
are
and
higher
I-
on our list.
Well,
I'm sorry,
we're
buddy.
we're like off by like one or two, but like that's how it is with us. Like when we
Yeah.
talk on Instagram, like he'll say stuff, and I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I can
Go
save my
ahead.
thoughts for a little later, but yeah, Darkman is another one of those that the first time I watched it, it sort of blew me away, and with each rewatch, it just becomes just more and more of a film that I just really, really enjoy, and I really can geek out over. And also, like I said, I won't say too much, but it also became sort of the blueprint of what Sam Raimi did with his Spider-Man trilogy and making superhero movies. So,
Right.
how about
Yeah.
you, Josh?
Good stuff.
So my number 3 was Evil Dead 2. I know you said you had it. Is it higher on your list or is it number 3?
I think number 4 on your list, right, CJ?
It's number 4 on mine. You said it's like 7 or 8 for you.
Yeah,
Sprang.
it's 7 or 8 on mine. Yeah.
So yeah, number 3. Okay, so yours was number 4 for
Mine
Evil
was
Dead
4.
2.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we can talk about it now. So yeah, my number 3 was Evil Dead 2. Kind of going back to what CJ said, like obviously the first one we just talked about, very groundbreaking, and we all love that film and we love that franchise as a whole. But Evil Dead 2 is the highest rated of all the movies. People sometimes prefer it, as their go-to Evil Dead movie. They actually like that one, and a lot of people love Army of Darkness is a lot of fun too. But Evil Dead 2, I just put on my list just because I had to have at least one of the films in that first trilogy on here, just because I don't think Sam Raimi is Sam Raimi without those films. So, obviously it was written by Sam Raimi, also Scott Spiegel. And he actually is most known for, he directed From Dusk Till Dawn 2, and he directed Hostel Part 3. Neither of those I have actually seen. Really cool. Stephen King was such a huge fan of the original film. He had his producer who was, because Stephen King directed Maximum Overdrive, the semi-truck with Emilio Estevez. Dino De Laurentiis, I think is how you say his name. He was the producer for Maximum Overdrive, and Stephen King loved Evil Dead so much, he was able to convince that producer to finance Evil Dead 2 for Sam Raimi, which is really cool. So a lot of the sequel is owed to Stephen King, which is really cool. And I thought this was interesting just because of how the movie is, takes place kind of in the similar setting. A lot of the movie they actually shot inside of a gymnasium at a junior high in North Carolina. So like it's just wild to think they like packed a gymnasium at a junior high with all these set pieces to like make it feel, outdoors and dark and all that stuff. So I just think that's really fun. Movie magic, and then Raimi actually appeared in, going back to Stephen King, he was actually in The Stand, the miniseries, The Stand, and he was also in the miniseries of The Shining, just a little bit, and as like side characters. And then this kind of goes back to Evil Dead 2, kind of relates to like the time we're living in now with like Terrifier 3. They tried to cut the movie down, and the producers, they didn't want to release it as an unrated film, because what they did was they made up a made up production company called Rosebud, and that fake company name released Evil Dead 2 unrated. That way it wasn't in affiliation with the actual, like their actual production company.
Interesting.
But yeah, it's really cool. And then I gotta throw some tech stuff in here just because like I love how they do practical effects and stuff. So obviously the chainsaw with the smoke coming off and all that stuff. The smoke, they used tobacco smoke, and then Raimi put like a tube attached to the chainsaw and like blew the smoke up out of to make it have that effect, which is really fun.
So were they just like linemen, just like over there with smoking cigarettes and blowing
probably,
through the tube?
Probably, yeah. They were probably having fun with it. Back then they were probably like
funny.
putting other stuff in there, but And then going back to the unrated, they almost had to have an X rating. So they tried to avoid that. And so they had to use a different, for some reason, changing the color of the blood or the shade of the color of blood made it not an X rating. So like they tweaked it just a little bit just to get that.
So that's why it's a little bit more orangey than it is like red, like dark, deep red.
And then just kind of another fun fact to finish up on this one, the evil sound that travels through the forest was actually a mixture of Sam Raimi's voice and Orson Welles' voice mixed together. And this is one of Orson Welles' last credited film appearances is actually Evil Dead 2. So
that kind of shows the Citizen Kane reference, right?
Exactly.
Like Orson Welles.
Right.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder why, and now I know. Yeah, that's cool.
Evil Dead 2 is the reason I have it on my list is because I remember I didn't get into, first of all, I didn't grow up watching a lot of horror movies, so I didn't even start getting into horror until about 3 years ago. I was easing my way into it, into like the horror stuff. But the first time I watched Evil Dead, I was like, everybody talks about Evil Dead. I don't know if I can handle it. I don't know if it's too scary for me. And watching Evil Dead, I don't know, maybe it was one of my first real horror experiences, one of my first real like experiences going in something that sort of dark and demonic. And I think what it was with Evil Dead 2 is that the comedy cut that a little bit for me, and it just I was having a little bit more fun, and it has so many similar elements to I can go back and appreciate the first film now, but I just feel like Evil Dead 2 was the first one that made me go, wow, this is really cool what he's doing here. And also, Josh, you mentioned Scott Spiegel. Scott Spiegel he's one of the kids that grew up with Raimi and like went to school with him and stuff. And he's part of their friends group with Campbell and with the Raimis. And he's all over my Letterboxd because he's in almost every single, he's in at least 9 or 10 of Raimi's features. And he's in almost every single one of his short films of like back in the 70s and that they were making.
Nice.
But the most recognizable Scott Spiegel cameo is in Spider-Man 2 in the beginning when Peter's delivering the pizza and he goes to like stop some crime. He sets the pizza boxes on a guy's balcony.
Oh,
and
the
then
guy on the balcony.
the guy on the balcony eating the slice of pizza is Scott Spiegel.
That's so funny.
But,
I was actually watching that again last night. That's so funny.
So Scott Spiegel and Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, they were all best buds making films together. And the way Bruce Campbell tells the story is he said that they were like, hey, because Scott Spiegel's in the he's the like one of the main guys in the Within the Woods, which is like the Evil Dead short film and stuff. But the way Campbell tells the story is that they're like, hey, you're the best looking out of all of us. So you be the guy on camera and we'll just do the technical stuff. So then you get a lot of Scott Spiegel and then also Ted Raimi doing like monster stuff or cameo stuff all the time. And they make Campbell the face of everything because they say he's the best looking one.
Nice. That's really cool that they like, I love when, like Adam Sandler, you were talking about earlier, watching Adam Sandler. Like not all his movies are a home run, but like it's so you can tell they love what they do. He gets to work with all his buddies and like make movies. Like how cool is that? That's like the dream. And you still, I mean, even if they do bad, you still make a lot of money. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool. Very nice. All right, my number 3. I think I'm thinking it's going to be higher on someone else's list. Spider-Man 2002.
I've got that a little higher.
All right.
Is that the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Okay. No, I don't have that one. I have a different one.
Cool. All right, you're up, CJ.
So my number 2 is Spider-Man 2.
All right, I've got
Mine's
that higher.
Yeah,
Sorry, buddy.
No. Listen, I fully expected that. I'll explain why in a minute when we make our rounds.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
For me, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are neck and neck. To me, I think they're equal in quality. I think they're equal in effectiveness. I think they're both great stories. But it's my list of favorites really always goes back, and I know everybody rates movies differently, but mine always goes back to obviously personal preference and rewatchability and connection that we make with these movies, which is why something like Quick and the Dead or Darkman might not be on everybody else's radar or A Simple Plan. And a lot of people might say, oh, well, Drag Me to Hell's better or this is better. And to me, I couldn't care less what is better, but more so what I feel like is a favorite of mine. So yeah, I've got Spider-Man 2. You've got that. You guys clearly have that higher. So Josh, go ahead. What's your number 2?
My number 2, we can now talk about Darkman. So Darkman is my number 2. Just because mainly like out of all the Raimi films, other not counting the Spider-Man trilogy, because those have like obviously a different feel for, I mean, those are just, you know, huge when they came out. But the first time I saw Darkman is one of those movies that just is so like obscure at the time for me, even like working at the video store. Like I was seeing all of these movies come in constantly, and like I already knew a lot of the films I loved to watch. All this I liked. I worked there at the time when like A24 was like just starting out, but I loved indie flicks and like, you know, independently made movies because people were being real filmmakers and had to like really work to make these come out. So Darkman kind of, I'd seen the cover come in many times, and I don't think until I watched it, I don't think I even realized that Sam Raimi did it until I watched it finally. So I rented it one night, took it home over the weekend, and yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, this movie's awesome. Like Liam Neeson, I mean, I'd seen him in a bunch at the time because he was, at the time when I saw the movie, he was already in it, you know, so many movies and so good. Obviously, Frances McDormand, a legend, one of the best actresses maybe of all time. So I was just like, man, this cast is great. The special effects, I mean, it's Sam Raimi's special effects team, and like, you know, they always do a great job. And I just enjoyed it. And it was back when movies were, you know, an hour and a half. And now you can't find a movie that's, yeah, you can't find movies that are less than like 2 hours and 15 minutes anymore. Gotta love the 90s. I mean, there were so many great movies, but like Darkman is just such a fun one. It was written by Sam and his brother Ivan, actually.
Ivan, yep.
And then I don't know how you say this guy's last name, but Chuck Farrar, is that how you?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So he was another writer on it, and he worked on movies like Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen and Hard Target, Barbed Wire, which is like a cult classic with Pamela Anderson, The Jackal, which is a fun one with Bruce Willis, Virus with my girl Jamie Lee Curtis, and then Red Planet with Val Kilmer, which is not a great movie, but it's got some fun stuff in it. And then Liam Neeson, he's like, I mean, sometimes every once in a while we get a crazy Liam Neeson performance. Not quite like Nicolas Cage crazy, but like Darkman that's a good, I feel like that's a good, like, yeah,
it's bizarre. Like, it's bizarre.
It's if Liam Neeson was taking his method acting from Nicolas Cage, like crazy. So Liam Neeson, to research for the role, he actually contacted the Phoenix Society, and they help victims with like disfigurements to then how they adjust to society. So he like really took all that in and worked with that, you know, group of people. And it started as a short story. CJ probably knows more about this than I do, but Sam he wrote a short story that ended up becoming Darkman, and he was trying to pay homage to like the universal horror of the 1930s. So that's where his inspiration for Darkman came, which I love because I love the Universal monsters. So I think that's the feel of that, but in like a superhero almost like form is really cool.
His outfit's very much Claude Rains inspired.
Yeah.
Claude Rains, Invisible Man, very much.
But like even messier than Claude. Yeah, it's so awesome. But spoiler, Bruce Campbell has a cameo at the very end. But he was actually originally, Sam wanted him to star in the movie, and the studio didn't think he could, you know, play the role. So he got cast as a cameo, obviously. But I think he would have been fine, but we wouldn't have got the epic Liam Neeson performance. So
Sprang, you've seen Darkman, I would hope, right?
Yeah.
I know you haven't seen Quick and the Dead, so I got to check now. No,
no, you're good.
You know, I got to say, Liam Neeson, I feel like Liam Neeson's performance in that movie makes it charming and it makes it funny. But I do wonder, the way Bruce Campbell plays Ash, I feel like Bruce Campbell's zaniness and wackiness comes off more natural. Liam Neeson's wackiness is a little more terrifying and a little more unhinged. And I do wonder if you know, not to say it'd be a better movie, but I do wonder if that movie would have just felt a lot. I feel like Campbell might have played it a little more straight and a little bit more naturally, where
Right.
Liam Neeson just feels very goofy. And again, it makes it charming and it makes it funny, but it also, you can't help but laugh at some of these scenes because his delivery and
Yeah.
his performance is just crazy. Like especially the carnival scene is insane.
Oh man,
The
it's
carnival
so,
scene
yeah.
is like nightmare fuel.
Ridiculous.
And what I love about Darkman is, I mentioned before, it is the blueprint of the Spider-Man trilogy. It was Raimi making a comic book movie from a comic book that didn't exist. And actually, there's another comic book movie that I kind of compare it to a lot, which is The Crow.
Nice.
The reason I compare them is because The Crow is a little bit campy and a little bit corny, but also very very charming and very much a cult classic. And what I like about that era of comic book movies is, nowadays a lot of our comic book villains are they're trying to make them more grounded and more serious, like Heath Ledger's Joker. They're trying to make, you know, like the MCU everything with making the characters more believable in the real world. And what I love about, like, for example, The Crow, the villain, he's just a bad guy and he just wants, that's it. They're just bad guys. They're like, yeah, bang, bang, let's light fires. Like, that's what they're doing. They're like the Joker's henchmen, you know?
Yeah.
And the only reason I mention The Crow is because when you compare these films, The Crow is based on a comic book, so they have a source material. Raimi's making this up. Raimi is creating a comic book character out of his own mind, and there's no comic book. And it had the opposite effect because in 1993, Marvel picked it up for a 6-issue short run, a miniseries. So it became a comic book. So he made a comic book movie before the comic book existed, and he kind of willed it into existence, which is really cool. And yeah, the bad guys are bad just because they're bad. It's like I say, they're like Joker's henchmen. They're just, it's just like this fantastical world of like crime and like the whole, like the Bellaramus memorandum or whatever they just want this document of paper so that they can skirt the city, like building permits and sort of like do all this stuff. And it's just like very, just very, like, we have a villain that's cutting off his victim's fingers with a cigarette or a cigar cutter. With a cigar cutter, Robert Durant, you know, he says 10 things to say up to you or something like that. He goes 1, and he like chops off a finger. He's like, I don't like when people do this. He's like 2, something else. He goes 3, I have 7 more points. And the guy's like, he's gonna cut off all 7 of his, or all 10 of his fingers. Very, very cool what Raimi did. And going back to the blueprint of his superhero movies, I wasn't there when it happened, but I have to imagine when he got picked up for Spider-Man in 2002, he looked at Darkman and said, you know what? This is my shot. Like, not a lot of people saw my first comic book movie. Darkman didn't, you know, it's obviously not as well known. He says, this is my stage. I'm going to do the stuff that I did, but on a bigger scale with more money on a bigger budget. And in Spider-Man, in the first Spider-Man, there is a choreography fight scene that is shot for shot, move for move, same choreography of Darkman. They're identical. And then we talked about his setup with the trench coat and the fedora. And when you watch Spider-Man 2 and you see Doc Ock open up that vault in the bank, his silhouette is trench coat and fedora. It's just like Peyton Westlake, and it's just like Darkman. And there's just so much cool stuff that he threw into that movie that he got to do with a bigger budget and a bigger stage just about 10 years later. So, yeah, that's why Darkman is on my list. Not as high as Josh's, but definitely Darkman's a great one.
Well, and like the makeup and stuff, like Liam Neeson, they say he was in makeup for like, you know, and makeup and the whole work day. It was like 18-hour days, almost every day of filming. Like so he probably went a little mad just, you know, getting all that prep time in.
I gotta say, I love when movies are self-aware about like continuity errors, and they I guess it's like when you have your what do they call it? Well, like when you're suspense of reality, where you're like, hey, it's a movie. It's like Harrison Ford saying, it ain't that kind of movie, kid. I have to laugh every single time Liam Neeson, because like these masks don't go on perfectly. Like he puts the mask on, it's obviously he's putting a mask over his like burned up face, and like they pull a mask off, and you'll see him running, and he'll put another mask on, and like it's just like perfect, like perfectly done. And but there's this one scene where he has like a mask on top of a mask on top of a mask, and it's like he's pretending to be one of these henchmen, and they rip it off, and then he's another henchman, and then you see, and he rip it off again, and it's like he puts these masks on so quickly, does his outfit changes so quickly and so perfectly, and you never question it because you're like, it's a movie. Like, it's a movie, but like he gets that mask on just perfectly. And it's just, and you got to imagine how many masks he has in his pocket because he's just pulling them out and switching faces on a dime.
When Sam tried to do the shadow, so like he couldn't get the shadow, he just couldn't get the rights to the shadow, which, you know, Alec Baldwin went on to be in, but he really wanted to do that. So I think he took like a mixture of all the stuff that he loves and then made Darkman, which is so cool. So it's just a fun one. Julia Roberts was actually supposed to be the Frances McDormand character, but she had to do Pretty Woman, so she was not in the movie. And then Gary Oldman, which was out of left field, I read that he was supposed to be the main character, and then he, for whatever reason, couldn't do it. Also, John Landis, awesome director. He has a small role, not only in Darkman, but he also has a cameo in Spider-Man 2, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Nice.
I'll let you talk about Darkman in a minute, Sprang, but I have to say, one of the final quotes of the movie, it's not the final quote, but it's right at the end of the movie when I forget the name of the big bad, the villain, but when he's holding him over the edge of the building, and he's kind of the guy's kind of taunting him. He's like, you won't do it, you won't drop me. He's like, I know you too well. Dropping me is not an option for you. Like, it's not something you can live with. And my favorite line of that movie is Liam Neeson just saying, I'm learning to live with a lot of things. You know, he goes, it's not something you can live with. And he goes, I'm learning to live with a lot of stuff. Like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I've had to deal with a lot in the last few weeks. This is, I think I can handle this a little bit. Man. I really enjoyed it. I remember seeing the poster and stuff at Blockbuster back when I was a kid, like a teenager. Like, I remember seeing it. But it just never hit my watch list. And then to prep for this, I ended up watching it a few weeks ago. Really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun for sure.
Mm-hmm.
As I was watching it, I was thinking about all the Raimi-isms. So classic Raimi-isms, his practical effects are there. The extreme close-ups that are slightly off center. The extreme yelling from his characters, like that. There's some of those things. And then as I was watching, I was like, this is kind of like Batman, but also like add in a little bit of Novocaine that came out earlier this year, where it's like, you can't feel anything. You're a superhero. Oh, okay. I can use this to my advantage. But then that was like earlier in the movie, and it kind of doesn't. He's not really a hero the whole time, right? He's more like an anti-hero a little bit. So one of the funny things I pointed out that made me laugh a little bit is this. It's like Strack Industries is throwing the party. And I was like, I think that's a borrow from Marvel.
That's his name, Strack. Yeah, Strack.
Strack.
Yeah.
You know, interesting you compare it to Batman, because I've compared it to Batman before, and I've compared it to Novocaine because it's very similar. But I've also compared it to Deadpool. Not
I was thinking that too.
Really as a character, but the disfigurement, the not being super susceptible to like pain and stuff like that, but also being too ashamed of his appearance to reconnect with the woman he loves. And if you look at the first Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie 2016, that's the whole plot, is trying to get back with his girlfriend, but being disfigured. So
great call.
You both were on the same page.
Yeah, one other moment that stood out to me was the budget for the helicopter at the end. Like, that was insane. Like, that was a lot of great work there. And then also the fact that it flew, didn't it fly into the train car or the train tunnel or something like that? Like, it
dropped a car or something.
Yeah. And so that kind of harkened back to me to like Mission Impossible, the first one, because it's trapped to the train and gets pulled into the thing. In Mission Impossible, it flies into it with the train. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, Darkman, it didn't fly into the train but train tunnel. Anyway, it was just I just remembered it kind of made me think of Mission Impossible a little bit there. But I really enjoyed that
too. Yeah,
the helicopter scene is crazy. Some of the blue screening and like the mapping of that is a little choppy. It's the special effects are a little choppy on that part, but I own it on DVD, and I don't know how this slipped past the editors, but there's a section where the camera pans from the helicopter, like the front window, and it pans to like the side window of the helicopter. And when it pans to the other window, they didn't finish the background, so there's blue screen in one of the windows.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And I have it on DVD, and I'm like, that whole window's blue when the other
Yeah,
windows
nice.
have buildings and stuff, and there's a whole blue screen window, which is
That's
funny.
amazing.
That
I
is
watched it on
funny.
streaming, so maybe they fixed it. I didn't notice that.
I
on
wonder.
mine, but,
Yeah, check it out.
yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to go back. Like, you're not always going to find all of them, obviously, but some of those early DVD copies, like and then they find it out from fans and they're like, oh crap. And then they change it for the Blu-ray or whatever.
Speaking of, I think I gotta throw this out there because we're talking about original versions, but the original version of Star Wars is announced to be released in 2027, I think, for the 50th anniversary, and it's going to be the original version of Star
That's
Wars,
crazy.
not Star Wars: A New Hope, not Star Wars
Right.
Special Edition, just Star Wars, George Lucas's. So I'm excited for that. I don't know how long that's going to last in theaters. I mean, it's for as many people I think that are going to try to go see this thing. Like I think it's going to be in theaters for a few weeks.
It better be, because they can milk a couple months.
Oh,
out of
absolutely.
that. I mean, they can get a lot of money from that. So
well, because that one is even more exciting for the OG fans. Like, they re-released them back in the day in theaters for. Well, I don't know if they did all of them. They did like episode 1.
They didn't do Attack. They didn't do Attack of the Clones.
They didn't do Attack of the Clones. They did Revenge of the Sith
and Phantom Menace. I saw those both.
Yeah. That's right.
He was planning to, the idea was he was going to release them in 3D at one point too. And they were going to release one a year in 3D, but he only released the first one and then didn't release the others. I guess they didn't get their money back on that 3D conversion. So they're like, sorry, George, if he'd have started with 4,
Georgie
may have gotten that was way back before Disney. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, my number 2, I don't think is on either of your lists. We've already mentioned it once. It is Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is my number 2.
Great movie.
Yeah.
That is a great movie.
Yeah. And so, as I said before, like I normally lean towards the straight horror. Like that's where it took me a while to kind of be able to carry the horror and the humor at the same time. While my first horror movie that made me fall in love with horror was Scream. There's a lot of like natural humor in that, but it wasn't for me. Like it wasn't goofy. It wasn't like silly humor. It was just funny because they were saying things that were funny, acting things and doing things that were funny in the context. But it wasn't like overtly, let's just be silly on this. And so that kind of it took me a while to kind of get into that. More recently, I've grown to really like those. Those are fun and those are more approachable, especially for my wife who doesn't like scary movies. She can actually get into something like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil because it's so funny.
Yeah.
But then she can just kind of turn away at the gore, but she can laugh at like this, this horror movie that's actually a comedy. And so I actually resisted Army of Darkness for years. Like I knew about it, and I heard a lot of good things about it. And then I'd seen Evil Dead. I watched Evil Dead 2, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do Army of Darkness. I don't know if I'm in the mood for silly horror. And then last October, for my October movie watching, I watch at least one scary movie a day for the month of October. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I was just like, I was laughing the entire time. I was like, this is perfect. Like I can't, like for me, like it was like the perfect combination of just Bruce Campbell being all Bruce Campbell and Ash just being Ash. Just amazing. The hilarity of the time travel, the hilarity of this whole situation just made me laugh. And I got done with that movie and I gave it 4.5 stars. I was like, this is just amazing. And I think part of that is because it was more of a surprise to me. It ended up being higher on my list because it shocked me at how much I liked it and how much I enjoyed it. Just watching it that first time, it just superseded all my expectations. And so, yeah, that's why it's high on my list.
It's I always say I think it might be the medieval setting, but I can't help but think of 2 movies when I watch Army of Darkness. I think of Quest for the Holy Grail, Monty Python, a lot, and I also think of The Princess Bride. Both of them having that medieval setting and that really that goofiness. Watching Army of Darkness, I'm like, somebody's gonna pop out and say mayo wedge, it fits. I feel like it fits.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, and also I think of like for some reason, yeah, Princess Bride, I think about it a lot, like the ROTSs. Like I feel like like those could show up in Army of Darkness and it would not feel so out of place. I love the evil Ash. It's just super fun movie.
Yeah. Speaking of Princess Bride, I just introduced that to my son Zeke. We had watched it once before, but he was younger. He didn't remember anything about the movie, so we rewatched it a couple weekends ago. And I said, he's in theater, and I was like, if you want to be in theater, you have to have watched this movie and be able to quote it. It still holds
Yeah.
up to this
Yeah.
day. Theater geeks love Princess Bride. So yeah.
Yeah,
Fun-
it is a
fun
fun
movie.
one.
Great movie.
Cool.
And another horror legend there with Carrie Ells from Saw.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So great. Cool. You got anything
My-
for Army of Darkness, Josh? Or we can
No,
just go ahead.
you guys touched
Cool.
on it is a very fun movie. I forgot that Bill Moseley was in Army of Darkness. He's the Deadite captain. But yeah, no, it's a fun one. But when I was going through that original trilogy, I mean, Evil Dead 2 just sticks out a little bit more. But yeah, Army of Darkness, great choice. And I think all your references that you guys mentioned are accurate for sure. So
I was talking to a buddy of mine, by the way, about like the sequels, the Evil Dead sequels with the Fede Alvarez movie, and also the Evil Dead Rise. And a lot of people refer to Evil Dead 2013 as a reboot, but Fede Alvarez confirmed that it was a sequel. It has Bruce Campbell in a post-credit scene, but tying it into Army of Darkness reveals that there are actually 3 Book of Necronomicons or whatever, and one of them ended up in Michigan, one of them ended up in the apartment building in Los Angeles from Rise, and the other one ended up in Tennessee, which is the
I didn't
original.
hear that.
So that's why there's 3 books. So the Michigan is from Evil Dead 2013, Tennessee is from original Evil Dead, and LA is the book that's under the apartment building from Evil Dead Rise. But we were also talking about how he said, how funny would it have been if, like, Evil Dead Rise was really good. I like Evil Dead Rise, but he's like, what if they stuck to the original formula of like because Evil Dead 2013, scariest of the bunch. I gotta say, absolutely scariest, goriest.
So good.
He said, what if Evil Dead Rise went the way of Evil Dead 2 and they went comedy, and then for this third one coming out, if they went really Army of Darkness with it, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
They
It'll be
still
interesting
could,
to
yeah.
see. Yeah, at least the third one. It'll be interesting to see with
Yeah.
Ash in it, how they roll with it.
I will say
I
that,
hope they go back to comedy.
right? That intro in Evil Dead
Rise?
Rise is so, man, I think I was doing a Steelbook short, like what new Steelbooks came out, and Evil Dead Rise had just come out on Steelbook, and I was like, man, this has one of the coolest intros. Like, it's so just that logo coming out of the water is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
All right, you're number 1, CJ. We know what it is. Let's hear it.
Yeah, my number 1. I brought this up earlier, but I feel like it was so. When you say movies that make you, I feel like this movie made me. It made me imagine. It made me. It made me like feel things. It made me swing around my playground as a kid. It really has been something that I come back to over and over and over, even into my adulthood, and that is Spider-Man 2002. As much as people love Spider-Man 2, and which I equally love Spider-Man 2, I think Norman Osborn is my favorite villain of the Spider-Man trilogy. I think that final fight scene with Norman and Peter, just bare bones fist fighting in that abandoned building, is, I know a lot of people like that train scene with Doc Ock, but I would say that Norman and Peter fight is one of the best fights in any Spider-Man movie. It just has so much heart. Norman is strong. They're equally powered. Norman fights dirty. There's a lot of emotion there. There's Peter pulling his punches because when he realizes that this is his best friend's dad. There's just so much in that movie. There's so much heart in that movie. And it's just, I think, being an 11-year-old watching that movie in 2002, it was Mother's Day. My whole family went on Mother's Day. I feel like there's so much baked into my DNA from that movie that it's always going to be one of my favorites, and it's got to be my number 1 for sure. And I definitely have seen it more times than any other Spider-Man movie for sure. That's the movie for me. That's my favorite superhero movie, my favorite Spider-Man movie, one of my favorite villains. And I was watching it with my wife just a few weeks ago, and she's like, "Can you stop quoting every single line?"
That's
Yeah.
how I am with the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Every time the Dark Knight ends, I like get up and clap because even though I've seen it 100 times, I'm like, it's such a beautiful movie.
Yeah,
It's so good.
absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, it was number 3 on my list. I kind of am with you. Like, I know a lot of people like Spider-Man 2, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Spider-Man 1 it's the one that kicked it off. And not only did it kick off Spider-Man, it kicked off an era of superhero movies that we're still living in. It made superhero movies, while the X-Men movies were good and they did a lot. I think X3 Last Stand kind of was a dip, and then Spider-Man comes in, picks it up, and like runs with it. And I think with Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, you get that trajectory, and then we get to 2008. We get 2005. Then you get Batman Begins, right? And it's Batman Begins is leaning on what Spider-Man did and saying superhero movies can be taken seriously. Superhero movies can deal with conflict in the character and let that be part of the character. I just think, just as you were sharing, the closing scene where he's walking away from MJ with tears in his eyes because he just killed his best friend's dad by accident. Like he didn't want it to happen. And I think that's something that's also very unique to Spider-Man as a character, because they've even done that with Tom Holland's character. Like the whole thing of No Way Home is him trying to save his enemies. He's doing his best not to fight his enemies. He wants to redeem his enemies from their darkness. And it's like, that's at the heart of who Spider-Man is. He's a kid and he doesn't want to fight. He wants to save people. He wants to help people, and helping people also includes the people that are coming after him to kill him. He's just trying to survive so he can help other people. And him doing a backflip when the glider is coming at him ends up killing the goblin, but he didn't want to kill him. And it's just like that from that point on, it's just like, so I'm with you. It's a great, I think I couldn't let it go by without also talking about the iconicness of the upside down kiss. I mean, that's a really iconic moment.
Jack Black parodied that too.
Yes.
So funny.
So great. So great. And I think they'll probably, I don't know, did they parody it in the Into the Spider-Verse? I don't know if I can't remember. I think they might have done a little homage to it. Maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
Oh,
but,
it might have been. It might have been when he introduces himself. When Peter introduces himself. I think it's safe to say none of you have Spider-Man 3 as your number one, right?
Right.
I do.
So,
no, I'm
because I want to briefly touch on Spider-Man 3 as like tying up the trilogy, only because of how it ties everything up beautifully that's set up in number 1, especially with Norman and stuff, and what you say about saving his enemies. I'm a big defender of Spider-Man 3. I have really enjoyed it more and more as I've gotten older, and I know Raimi never wanted Venom to be in that script. And a few months ago, I was watching it with sort of a different perspective, and I was like, imagining what the movie would be like without Venom, without Eddie Brock. And when you remove Venom, which is the biggest glaring problem of that whole film, admittedly, when you remove Eddie Brock and you remove Venom from that script entirely, the movie still works. And I think it works even better. I don't think he's necessary at all. But it creates what I sort of deemed as the triangle of forgiveness, because you have this beautiful triangle where Flint Marko, Sandman, he is revealed later in the film that he's the one that killed Uncle Ben. And Peter has just gotten through getting over Uncle Ben's death. He's just gotten over it, and he's going on with his life. And now he learns, I killed the wrong guy. That's the wrong guy. Now he's pissed and he's angry, and he wants vengeance against Flint Marko. But meanwhile, Marko he's guilty, of course, but it's also, there's nuance to it. It was an accident, and there's all this stuff. And Marko has a heavy, heavy burden, and he doesn't think he deserves forgiveness from Peter, but he wants to apologize and he wants to make things right. And Peter can't really reason with that because he's so fueled by rage and he's blinded by rage. But meanwhile, the opposite is happening with Harry, where Harry is so blinded by rage that he can't understand that Peter didn't kill his dad, that his dad was the Green Goblin, and that his dad, was, all of this stuff. And Peter wants to reconcile so badly with Harry. So now we've got Peter who wants to reconcile with Harry, and Harry who wants to kill Peter, and Peter who wants to kill Flint, and Flint who wants to reconcile with Peter. And they all sort of forgive each other and learn to come to terms with that. And the most beautiful moment is when Flint is like, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm a bad guy. I just want you to know I'm sorry. And Peter says, hey, I've done bad stuff too. I've messed up a lot too. And Peter's like, I have a lot of blood on my hands, and I have a lot of guilt as well. So like, I forgive you. And then Flint is like, I can't believe he forget. Like, I really am a big defender of that movie. And again, remove Venom from the equation, and it really ties up everything that they set up in the first movie with Harry and Norman and Flint and Ben and everything. So that, I know that was long-winded, but that's my shout out to Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it gets a bad rap, but I mean, it is fun. There's a lot of fun. I mean, even the later Spider-Man, like, Amazing Spider-Man and stuff, they all have their moments. Like, they're not perfect by any means.
I love
but
the Amazing Spider-Man, the first
one. Yeah,
really
Amazing Spider, especially the first one. It's comic book accurate. It's so good. You love Andrew Garfield. I love Tobey Maguire. I think like why you guys put it as your number one. Like, it's iconic, but Tobey's just like, he was Spider. That was a huge deal. I remember, like you were saying, Sprang, X-Men had come out and X2 and stuff. And I still think X2 is one of the best like that intro to X2 is one of my favorite comic book movie scenes, because I love Nightcrawler also. But Spider-Man it's so iconic. And I was like CJ, I remember going to the theaters. I think I lived in Austin we lived in Austin for 1 year. My dad lives there now, obviously, but we went to, I don't know what theater it was in Austin, but I remember we went and saw, it was either Spider-Man 1 or 2, I can't remember, but I just remember going to the theater and just enjoying that experience, like cinematic experience of watching a cool superhero. Like, Spider-Man's always been Spider-Man and Daredevil have been like my favorite Marvel characters for a while. So it was like really cool that we finally got a live action like Spider-Man. So
Spider-Man being my number one, I want to say, I think is for the same reason Sprang has Evil Dead as his number one. Because when you think of Evil Dead, I'm sure you think of that whole trilogy. That's what started it off. And when I think of Spider-Man, I am thinking of Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. So that one being at my number one sort of encapsulates that trilogy for me, in the same way that I feel like having Evil Dead up on your list is sort of, that's the kicker. So, but anyways, that's my list. I'll let you guys get to your number ones now.
Love it. One thing I did want to say about Spider-Man 1, do you guys remember the original teaser trailer? Because I saw it in the theaters.
I didn't, so but I know it had the towers, right?
Yeah. So it's
I've seen it on YouTube.
Like, yeah. I was in the theaters and seeing that, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And the helicopter gets captured in the big spider web. And then
I don't remember seeing the teaser, but I remember the news talking about it because that's right. Because I lived that 1 year, I lived in Austin. That was during 9/11. So I remember going to school and stuff, but I remember when the movie came out, they had a big story on the news about how they like took a scene out. My brother and I, when we were little, we were at the top of the World Trade. Like, we were the very top floor. I was probably 6 years old, and I remember, the feeling of looking out over the window and like just how huge those buildings were. And I have a childhood picture somewhere where the World Trade Centers are like behind my brother and I. My aunt lives in Randolph, New Jersey, so she's like an hour outside of New York City, which is, I got to make it out to New York Comic Con one of these days. But I do remember when they talked about that scene getting deleted. But just even without it, it's pretty awesome. I mean, Spider-Man 1 is just it's very good.
And so I think Josh and I have the same number one, Spider-Man 2.
We do.
There you go. All right, Josh, take it away.
Well, and I mean, obviously Spider-Man 1 set the groundwork, and we can have the epic sequel that is Spider-Man 2. But I also figured one of you would probably have Spider-Man 1 on your top higher than me. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about Spider-Man 2 just because I still think it's one of, I mean, if you ask most comic book movie lovers, like, it's one of the greatest. It's not only for comic book film, it's one of the greatest sequels that has ever been made. So much fun. I mean, Doc Ock's always been one of my favorite villains. So like bringing him into live action, but not fully relying on CGI and making, puppeteering and just so many cool things with Alfred Molina, who's also a brilliant actor. I was so excited when they brought him and Willem Dafoe back for No Way Home, just because like we all love those characters so much. So, but yeah, Spider-Man 2, really fun, amazing sequel. I mean, the action sequences are great. The story is great. You got Peter Parker kind of like battling with juggling real life with school and with a job, and keeps losing a job because he's trying to fight crime. And it like, just everything keeps backfiring. They set that all up within pretty much the first couple scenes. Call back to when CJ was talking about Scott Spiegel and the pizza on the balcony scene. That happens in the beginning. Also in that scene, when he delivers the pizzas at the office, the actress is I forget her name, but
Emily
she's
Deschanel.
Yeah. So she's Zoe Deschanel's sister, but she was on Bones, obviously, big actress. But I always think it's funny because she's kind of not how she plays other characters going forward after that movie. She's kind of a sassy little cameo, but yeah, I found it interesting. So like the train fight that we keep bringing up. I read that Sam Raimi actually like came up with that scene. He came up with that idea like first, like, and they filmed it first. It was like the first big scene, and they did that right away, which is kind of crazy because like that's such a huge pivotal scene in the movie. And then Willem Dafoe actually he ended up having a cameo in the movie, but he was actually walking back to his apartment one night, and they were filming they were on set, and he just said his hellos from, he knew a bunch of the people from the first movie, and they were like, yeah, why don't you just have a cameo? So they kind of just came up with it on the spot. He was on his way back home, and they were like, why don't you just jump in here? Which I think is so funny because like that's another scene that's kind of awesome. Like he's obviously talking to his son through the mirage or whatever. There's two other villains that are actually in the comics. These are villains. They become villains, but they were not portrayed as the villains in Spider-Man 2. But we have John Jameson, Jonah Jameson's son. He's Man-Wolf in the comics. And then Dr. Connors, obviously, played by Dylan Baker, a tremendous actor as Lizard, but we didn't get to see his portrayal of Lizard. We saw it later on in Amazing Spider-Man, which is really cool. And then No Way Home, obviously, they brought him back. But it would have been kind of cool to see Dylan Baker's portrayal as Lizard. Just a fun side fact, Peter's landlord, his name is Mr. Ditkovich, and he's named after Steve Ditko, the co-creator of Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
And then just to finish up, I have to talk about special effects because I love that stuff. So they actually constructed I don't know if they constructed the actual camera, but like they came up with the web slinging shots and stuff. They actually constructed a thing called a spider cam, and they actually had it on the first film, but they didn't use it until the final sequence of him swinging through the city. And this one, they got to go kind of wild with it, and it creates an effect dropping like 50 stories, and then the high speed like swooping scenes and stuff, which I just think that is so cool. Like, because Sam, it goes back to Sam's team and like how they stick to their guns with like practical effects. I love that stuff, and that's why I love movies in the first place. So I just think that stuff's really cool. And then the sound effects, the web sounds, like when like webs stick to stuff, was created with hitting tape from a cassette tape and leather strips on a floor. So it was like they just put those two together, and that's how they made the web, like the stick noises.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Doc Ock's tentacles, obviously were mostly for practical, and they were puppeteered by multiple people, which was really cool. But the sound of the tentacles and stuff was created using motorcycle chains and piano wires, and they kind of combine that together. And then throwback to CJ, he hosts an event for the Ed Asner Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And Phil Lamar he actually just this year at the event was talking to Phil about his little cameo in the train scene. But Phil Lamar was actually supposed to be the elevator
He auditioned
guy in
for
the
elevator
elevator.
scene.
Yeah. But you can go check that out on CJ's Instagram because he asked Phil about that whole experience, which was really cool. So throwback to that. But yeah, just a fun movie.
Evil
The
Dead reference
special
in that movie.
effects. Oh yeah. Well, and then the are you talking about the chainsaw and the?
Well, it's both. So it's the point of view of the tentacles, like what we mentioned, like with the point of view of the monster.
Mm-hmm.
But then the doctor reaches for a chainsaw, and it's like
and
that whole
well,
sequence.
And the way he puts it up, too, because I was watching it again last night, and I was like, that's totally. I've never noticed that.
Also, what was with the all chrome chainsaw in the hospital? This is like a super chromed out chainsaw in the hospital.
Can I just say that Josh watched like all of these movies last night? He keeps dropping movies. I watched this last night, you know.
I watched this one. I watched this one
Spider-Man 2,
just before. I'm actually watching Quick and the Dead right now. You guys are missing out.
You're watching it right now.
That's amazing. Well, CJ, I want to let you speak to it with your Spider-Man love, Spider-Man 2.
Oh. Well, no, I don't have too much to say. I love the movie so much. I think it has. I want to point out that Josh covered all the technical aspects. I do want to point out that it has like the most horror scene of the whole trilogy, like which is that hospital scene. That is like the most Sam Raimi horror movie scene. There's not a lot of other horror stuff in that trilogy except for the Thanksgiving or the parade where he turns those guys into skeletons, which is very Evil Dead. With Green Goblin throws that super Evil Dead. I do want to talk about Danny Elfman. I feel like Danny
I was going
Elfman,
to bring that up too.
So I like to compare Sam Raimi to Tim Burton a lot because there's a couple things they both do. They both work with Danny Elfman. They have both done iconic superhero films in Batman and Spider-Man, and they both use a lot of stop motion and miniatures. Obviously, Beetlejuice has a lot of stop motion and miniature stuff, and then you have, you know, the stuff in Evil Dead with like the bodies and the skeletons and the monsters and the deadites and all that. So that little Tim Burton connection. But Danny Elfman, I think because of Sam Raimi, Danny Elfman is my favorite composer. I feel like the Darkman score is so similar again to what he ended up doing with Spider-Man. I think the Spider-Man score and the Spider-Man 2 score are just so iconic. And like I said, Josh covered a lot of the technical stuff, and I feel like I've already spoken on like how the movies make me feel. But that music, Sam Raimi's stylization, his little horror elements, and the performances from Alfred Molina, and just like the heart that's there. Is so cool. I will say this about Spider-Man 2, and I'll try to be quick, even though I already defended Spider-Man 3. I have a little a fun little hypothetical, or it's this like reimagining of that trilogy. The one thing about that movie that I feel like is a bit of a missed opportunity is Peter meets Doc Ock and then defeats Doc Ock all within the same movie, and they don't really. Doc Ock is a much bigger mentor to Peter. He treats him like a boy, and like we hear him talk about in No Way Home, we hear him like, Peter, like, oh, like how have you been? And like he's really like a father figure to Peter. But in that time span of that movie, we don't really get to build their relationship out very much before Doc Ock gets injured, right? So my little in my imaginary world, I like to think, if Spider-Man 2 was any sort of filler villain, I don't like Electro, Rhino, or like whoever, Sandman, whatever Spider-Man 2, if they made a new Spider-Man 2 and it was whatever filler villains, but you introduce Doc Ock in that movie, just introduce him and let him mentor Peter, let him help him get over the death of Uncle Ben and stuff like that. If Spider-Man 2 was the third movie, I feel like we'd have a deeper connection to Doc Ock, a deeper connection to their relationship. It would hurt a little bit more, but also, merging the final battle when he has MJ held up, obviously a big part of the final battle with Spider-Man 3 is, you know, Harry sort of being like there, and I'm like, imagine Harry teaming up with Otto, because they do team up. He gets him like the plutonium or whatever it is. He gets him the element. Well, imagine while Otto is trying to build his machine, if Peter's going there to stop him and Harry is like bodyguarding him. So now he has to fight Harry first to get through to Otto. And then then this is the kicker. This is how you end the whole trilogy. Again, my made up trilogy. Then while they're fighting, Otto accidentally punctures kills Harry. Otto accidentally kills Harry, and then right after Harry and Peter make up, and then they're fighting together, Otto kills Harry, and now Peter just lost his best friend and his mentor at the same time.
Dang.
It's completely made up. That's me rewriting the
headcanon.
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
But
I
do kind of like to play around with that idea in my head, because I'm like, Spider-Man 3, unfortunately, there was some hiccups in that trilogy, and that's all. But Spider-Man 2, you're right. I mean, it's definitely, as much as I love Spider-Man 1, I think Spider-Man 2 is like one of the strongest with storytelling and stuff like that. Not having to deal with the origin story of it all and just getting right into the story. So,
well, and to go back on the Danny Elfman Raimi stuff, like Spider-Man 2 they had like a falling out during that movie. And then they didn't work again until 9 years later on Oz the Great and Powerful. So they made up and they're friends and stuff now. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I forget there was another composer who had to come in at the end and kind of like retouch up everything, because Danny him and Raimi just couldn't meet eye to eye. But yeah, they have a long storied career together. So Elfman, I mean, especially 90s and early 2000s, Elfman was like, I mean, I remember watching VHS movies and I'd see music by Danny Elfman like on every single Men in Black and the Spider-Man trilogy and
Batman.
Yeah, Batman. I mean, obviously,
crazy.
Batman's one of my all-time
animated
favorites.
series taking that Elfman.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Spider-Man 2 is so much fun.
Yeah, you got.
So the one thing I wanted to mention about Spider-Man 2, I think there's the thing that you desire, like in the first one, he's having to hide his identity. The second one, he finally does get to reveal his identity to MJ. So there's a cool twist there. But I think the thing for me with Doc Ock is that, again, it's a villain it's not by his own choice. He's fallen victim to his technology he created. He's creating his technology to do something good for people, to help the world, and that technology turns on him, and then he is a victim of that, being manipulated by that. And so I think, and that gets played out beautifully in No Way Home, where you kind of get a little bit of that redemption before that ends up having to fight the battle at the very end. But yeah, I mean, just amazing, visually great, a great villain, and just a lot of times movie 2 historically before then had struggled to do it, because the origin story is like the fun, like you get to see this hero become the hero, and then once they win, well, how do you have the second movie? Are they just going to win again? And then you don't get any of the growth that you get in the first movie, all the fun montages and the training and the things he has to learn. Like, you got to kind of figure out what to do in the second movie. I remember reading an article at the time that talked about how the origin stories are really somewhat easy to write, easy to come up with, and easy to kind of get the audience engaged. It's the second movie that sometimes proves to be more difficult to keep the audience engaged. But Spider-Man 2 did it great. And in a lot of ways, and on our list, and a lot of people's list, in superseding its predecessor, but it was a unique thing to do that especially for the superheroes movies at the time. I think you get to what was I thinking of, another superhero movie with Dark Knight, right? Like Batman Begins, you get a great one, and then Dark Knight comes in, and in a lot of people it supersedes that, but it's just because there's just a good writing, a good idea comes along, and then of course a masterful director comes in and actually is able to tell that story to where the hero still has to struggle, the hero still has to grow, and still has to overcome something that is hard for him to overcome. So both of those movies do a good job with that. So
fantastic,
very cool,
great list all the way around.
What we like to do at the end, CJ, is I take our top 5, right? We've got our top 5s, and then I see, where did these movies, do we have a way of showing these movies on each other's list based on the place it was on the list, and how many lists it was on, and so it ends up getting into our collective top 5. All right, so with that, I was able to kind of put together our collective top 5. Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah.
All right, at number 5 is on 2 lists, and that is The Quick and the Dead.
Nice.
Number 4 on 2 lists is Evil Dead 2. Number 3 on 2 lists is Darkman, because it was a 2 and a 3. And then Spider-Man is number 2 because it was on 2 lists, and it was a number 1. And then Spider-Man 2 is our number 1 because it's on 3 lists and on 2 number 1s. So that's a pretty good top 5.
That's almost my exact list, except the Spider-Mans are flipped. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So,
I know we've been chatting for a long time, but you called me to talk about Sam Raimi, so I want to throw a few honorable mentions out there real quick.
Yeah.
I know Josh mentioned A Simple Plan, and then there's a couple I want to talk about, and I know he did The Gift, like with Keanu Reeves and stuff like that. I'm a big fan and a big defender of Oz the Great and Powerful. And to say it in the quickest way possible, are there flaws? Absolutely. Can I sit there and name like 15 things that I'm like, this could have been better, this could have been better, this didn't work? Absolutely. But everything comes back to, I like directors that take big swings, and I think Oz is his biggest swing, if I'm being honest. I think it's a bigger swing than Spider-Man because...
no pun intended.
Yeah, but the thing is, because the source material is so precious to a lot of people, The Wizard of Oz is such an old film. There's so many generations of people who grew up watching that once a year. Like my grandma tells me, she watched Wizard of Oz probably more than any other movie because every year around Christmas time it's on TV. So it's just that story is ingrained in so many people's minds. And I feel like the biggest reason Wicked works so well as an adaptation and sort of like a retelling of that story is because of Broadway. But skipping over something like Broadway and skipping over that fan base and having a director like Sam Raimi just go straight to the big screen with actors like Mila Kunis and James Franco, and all that. I feel like it was a big swing. I feel like it was risky. I do think there's a lot of stuff that worked and there's plenty of stuff that didn't, but I really have a lot of fun, and the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of Wizard of Oz too, so like I love that world. And I also think that, he had a lot of guts to commit to the bit by making the first, I want to say 22 minutes, sepia tone, black and white on a 4:3 format. And I remember sitting in the theater when I saw that movie thinking like, oh, he's really doing this. Like what is he really does 22 minutes of black and white before that transition scene, very much paying honor to the original Wizard of Oz. And I think it was, I think it was bold. I think it was ballsy. And I think he pulled off a lot of cool stuff in that movie. And then the other honorable mention, just because I watched this last night for the first time ever, it's actually the only Sam Raimi movie I've never seen, just because I wasn't interested. I'm not a big Kevin Costner fan, and I don't watch a lot of sports movies. But I watched For Love of the Game, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised in the way it's not. It's a love story and also a complicated sort of story of this man's life dealing with not being able to lean on people or ask for help when he's hurt or ask for help when he's struggling. But it's a cool character study disguised as a sports movie. And I think maybe that's why some people didn't like it, is because they wanted a straight sports movie.
Right.
But yeah, I watched that last night, and I got to give a shout out that I was pretty surprised. I liked it.
That was on my honorable mentions list also, because it's one of my wife's favorite movies. Like, she talks about the movie all the time, and it's Kevin Costner doing another baseball movie. They wanted another Field of Dreams, and they didn't get it, right? But I'll tell you, like, I've seen that movie maybe, I know I've seen it one time when it first came out, and I think that might be the only time I've seen it. I still remember Clear the Mechanism. Like, I still remember that idea of somebody standing on the pitcher's mound and having all the noise around, and him needing to say, you know what, I'm going to lock in. That's what they'd say in the Gen Z, would say, we got to lock in.
Yeah.
But he's like, clear the mechanism. And he's got to focus on what he's doing right there. I still that's how impactful that movie was. And it's funny, I didn't know Sam Raimi till today when I pulled up the list of on Letterboxd just to make sure I had all of Sam Raimi's movies, like that I knew what they were. And I was like, babe, like, Sam Raimi directed one of your favorite movies. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, very good film.
Yeah. And this Josh will like this, because I know Josh lives on IMDb. The love interest in that film, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but the love interest in that film, I was like, why does she look so familiar? And she's the mom in The Cat in the Hat. With Mike Myers.
Oh, Kelly Preston.
Yeah, see, there he goes, Kelly Preston.
John
Travolta's wife.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
So yeah, she passed away a few years ago of I think breast cancer, I think.
Wow.
But well, and it was crazy because John lost his son, and then like I think a year later his ex-wife Kelly Preston died. But yeah, Yeah, no, she was the mom in Cat in the Hat. She was
Yeah, she's in Love of the
she
Game.
was
or
she
Love
was
of the Game.
big. I mean, when I was working at the video store, she was in a lot of movies. She's a good actress. She's very, very pretty.
That movie's got Kelly Preston, John C. Reilly, Brian Cox.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
And it's
Yeah.
also got I don't know her name. She's in Donnie Darko. She's Donnie's girlfriend. Jenna Malone.
Okay.
Oh, Jenna
Yeah.
Malone. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Nice.
plays Kelly Preston's daughter in that movie, and I was like, why does she look familiar? And
That's
it's Donnie
right.
Darko's girlfriend. So
That's
we
crazy.
never got Jenna Malone's Robin in
I know.
Batman vs Superman.
That would have been good.
yeah,
Been good.
She was they were supposed to go
Carrie
down
Kelly?
that. Yeah, she was supposed to
Very
go down
cool.
that rabbit hole, and then I guess it like got shelved. And then I think her one scene she was actually in that movie got like it's a deleted scene. I think it's in the director's cut.
It
is in the
I
director's
did not know
cut.
that.
No, yeah, she was supposed to be. Well, that's what they said. That's what Zack Snyder and a bunch of the Snyderverse fans all said. But it's okay.
The only
Maybe
one
one
I'll
day
s-
we'll.
The only other Sam Raimi movie I was going to mention was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Nice.
It was a fun ride. I felt like it was a good sequel to
Mm-hmm.
the original, and it was so Sam Raimi. It's like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
so like on a big budget, and like all of his makeup, all the practical makeup of Zombie Strange, and I mean just a little bit of the goofiness. It was just like I really dug it. So
Yeah, my only thing is obviously like what do they call the four horsemen? Is that what they call them? Like
Yeah.
Mr. Fantastic and
oh okay.
Oh,
When
the
they-
Illuminati. The Illuminati.
yeah,
right?
the Illuminati.
There it
Yeah.
is.
So they Four Horsemen was X-Men whatever days or Apocalypse. Yeah,
Apocalypse,
thank
yeah.
you. But yeah, no, like I just wish we would have got more of that scene. It was like so like when I finally watched it, because I didn't get to see that one in theaters, so when it hit Disney Plus, I finally watched it and I was digging it. And then that scene came up and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And it was over. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, everyone's gone. I was so sad
that-
because I was like, this is so badass. But then it was like a 5-minute scene.
Yeah, I mean, and like the other scenes that kind of stand out to me are just when he's bouncing through the multiverse and jumping
Oh,
from
yeah.
world to world to
So
world. It was
cool.
just like so visually beautiful and amazing, and just you saw so many interesting things. So
I like
Wanda's
the music note battle.
Yeah.
I like
Oh, yeah.
that. I know that people didn't
Wa-
really like that scene, but I thought that was pretty cool.
When Wanda's hand comes out of the mirror, that's very Drag Me to Hell, very Evil
Yeah.
Dead. Actually, on my Letterboxd, Sprang, I have the patron account where I can like change the the covers, and on
Yes.
my Letterboxd, I have the cover of Multiverse of Madness where it's Wanda, but it's a repainting of the Evil Dead cover where it's Wanda. With
nice.
her hand
I
up.
see that. I saw that one today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
Wanda with
actually-
her hand up.
Yeah, I went through and
Love it.
I created my list for this episode, and I just had all the Raimi movies on there, and I tried to find movie covers that were all single character
Oh, yeah.
posters, because Send Help, the standard poster is just Rachel McAdams standing there alone on the
Yeah.
island, and so I tried to kind of play with that a little bit with those movie posters.
Now,
So it's
I
fun.
have to say, I have avoided all trailers. I know nothing about Send Help. All I know is somebody said it's horror, and they said it's Sam Raimi returning to horror. I said that's all I need to know. I don't know anything about it, and I kind of don't
That's
want
actually
to.
awesome. Yeah.
The only other movie that I really did that with was actually another favorite director of mine, but it was with M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. I knew nothing
nice.
about Trap, and
Yeah.
whenever I have an opportunity to see a movie without seeing the trailer, I like to come home and watch the trailer and see if I would have been spoiled. And 100%, I think my experience with Trap would have been entirely different if I seen the trailer, because it spoils a lot. It
Right.
spoils the whole premise.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. 100%.
If you've seen Trap,
Yeah.
Sprang,
Yeah. Yeah.
the trailer reveals that Josh Hartnett is the villain.
Right.
I did not know that going into the theater.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so the
Well,
poster the poster says
yeah.
like 30,000 people, one killer, and I was like, oh shoot, he's gonna be protecting his daughter because there's a killer on the loose. So I thought he was a protagonist protecting his daughter and maybe
Yeah.
fighting the killer. Like I thought he was gonna be like a
Wow.
hero. I thought like, oh,
Yeah.
he's probably like ex special ops or something, and he's gonna be like a Liam Neeson of the movie and like save everybody, you know. But when it revealed that he pulls out his phone and sees the hostage cam, I was like, no way. Like if I watched the trailer, that would have completely spoiled the movie for me.
That's so interesting to me because I enjoyed the movie even though knowing that, but I can imagine that going in not knowing that. That's the Shyamalan twist, and they revealed the
way
twist.
Better.
They revealed it.
Wow.
They revealed
That's
it. Yeah,
crazy.
and same with Weapons. I didn't watch the trailer for Weapons, and you've seen Weapons, right?
I love Weapons.
So in the trailer, they put the scene of Alex stepping over the salt and his parents chasing him. And I'm like, why would you put that in? Why would you put that in the trailer? Because I went into that movie blind also, and I'm so grateful because I feel like trailers these days can really taint your experience. And
for sure,
it's kind of unfortunate.
I think for me, I don't give it too much thought. I kind of give them some grace because while I might be seeing the images, they aren't connected, and so I don't know what that is. But I think you're right with Trap because going in blind, that would be a completely different experience.
It's a big
whereas
twist.
in Weapons, while we know after watching the movie, that's a big moment. In the trailer, we don't know it's a big moment. We don't even know what it means, but it just gives you that kind of, okay, he's doing something. Oh, they're scared. Oh, and then it cuts to something else. And so, but I totally get it, and I appreciate that. I try to. I mean, the only time I see trailers is when I'm at a movie. So it's kind of like I go to the movie and like, well, I'm watching the ones that they're showing me. Otherwise, I'd just show up 30 minutes late and miss all the trailers.
That's like if they.
But I don't try to
Adrian
seek
Brody.
them out. Yeah.
It's like if they showed Adrian Brody dressed up like the monster in the Village trailer. Like that would have been. It'd be like that level of spoiler. It's like, why would you do that?
Right. Yeah,
I do love the Village.
Yeah.
The Village is great.
I saw it twice in the theaters, but.
This has been so much fun, guys. Like I honestly,
awesome.
The Sam Raimi stuff is just, it all goes back to Spider-Man, obviously. Like that's I'm a bit younger, obviously, Sprang, so I didn't experience Evil Dead, like and Army of Darkness, all that stuff, like when it was a little fresher, and obviously I was just way too young to see a lot of that stuff, even growing up in the 90s and stuff. But Spider-Man was like, that's what hit it for me. And then just experiencing his catalog. I like directors that have small catalogs too. Like I know I just mentioned Shyamalan, who has like 14 features, and Raimi, who's coming out with his 16th feature. Because I feel like you can watch their catalog from beginning to end and really understand them as a director, as to where you have someone like I like Marty Scorsese a lot, but he's got like over 60 films, and it's like 60 films with so much stuff. Like Nolan is another one with a small catalog. Like you can really understand Nolan from start to finish, and you can understand Denis Villeneuve from start to finish. And I really appreciate directors like that. And Sam Raimi's just always been up there for me with all going back to Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This has been so much fun. It's been really so relaxed and so great. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you'll maybe come back and we'll do another episode sometime. Maybe when Evil Dead Burn episode, we'd love to have you back. We can talk a little bit, more about some horror stuff. That'd be cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you have anything you want to promote to our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an artist. I'm a struggling artist trying to get my stuff out there. And I work with a few companies, one of them being like a trading card company called Saturday Morning Cards that I occasionally do some sketches and stuff for. But I could just plug my website. It's just Sidekick Ink with a K, I-N-K, but sidekicink.com. And I have my artwork for sale on there. I actually just drew this the other day for the podcast. It's a little encapsulated trading card, but it's
that's
Liam
amazing.
Neeson. It's Peyton Westlake from that carnival scene when he's like, he's like, take the elephant.
It's amazing.
No, I've been digging CJ's his cards. They're freaking cool. The Predator ones and the Jaws ones.
Cool. The little hand-drawn sketch cards are a lot of fun, and I have a few other projects coming up in this year, in 2026, that I want to start sort of certain dreams that I want to chase and certain things that I want to accomplish. So my social media is Sidekick Ink across all platforms, and my website, of course, is sidekicink.com, where I sell my artwork and do stuff like that. So that's me. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man.
CJ's the
man. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much. And we'll look forward to having you back, and we'll catch you guys again another time. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to jump over to our website, moviesthatmakeyoupodcast.com, see all of our links. Follow us on Instagram so you never miss an episode, a live stream, or an interview. And until next time, keep watching movies.